This is Show Me the Money, your weekly guide to who's making the cash, how they're doing it, and what it means for the way we work. With us tonight, it's his job to help you find a job. Tim Watts is chairman of the recruitment firm Pertemps. Someone who helps you get on your bike, whether you're job hunting or not, it's Butler Adams. He makes those fold-up Brompton bikes. And keeping an eagle eye on the economy and business, Maggie Pagano, business editor of The Independent on Sunday. Well, Britain's bosses just got gloomier about the state of the economy. According to the CBI, 7 out of 10 business leaders think things are worse now than they were in the summer, and 3 in 10 are looking for ways to cut jobs. Tim Watts, starting with you on this. You run a recruitment firm. You know the job market inside out. Is it as gloomy as those bosses make out?
I honestly don't think so. I myself am quite optimistic. I believe that there is obviously problems out there. The euro is having an impact on that word confidence. And business is very, very sensitive to confidence. And it comes and goes. But the Bank of England, the CBI itself are still predicting a small, modest growth for next year, which means we're going to do the same as we did this year and a little bit more.
But is that enough to stop unemployment rising? Well,
you're going to need the same people to do the same thing and a little bit more. Unemployment is a most peculiar thing. And if one of the things that they didn't count and look at was the huge rise in the self-employed. And they're actually growing at not say an alarming rate, at a very high rate, because it's becoming structurally very advantageous, particularly in the contracting industry, for people to transfer from PAYE to becoming self-employed contractors.
So you're saying that there are jobs out there?
Most certainly. There's 500,000 on Job Centre Plus today, and the proliferation of job boards indicates that.
Hang on, 500,000?
500,000
500,000 unfilled
jobs on Job Centre Plus tomorrow morning.
At a time when there are 2.5 million people who are unemployed?
There's more than 2.5 million, but yes, there's a lot of unemployed people and a lot of people who don't want to work.
We'll develop that point a little bit later. Just picking up this theme about confidence, Maggie. Of course, the reason confidence affects the job market is that if companies don't feel confident, they don't feel ready to spend money.
They're not going to invest in the new plant or the small factory or even the machine that they had hoped to. And of course, it's the small companies that we need to employ more people, because they're always the ones, the generators of the economy. And as you know, there's about 75 billion of money, cash, sitting on Britain's corporate board sheets, balance sheets right now. And all you need is just a little bit to just sort of get the confidence going, and people will start spending.
So that's money that companies have access to.
They have access, they're not spending it.
They could spend it if they wanted to.
Yeah, it's the highest it's been for about 4 years, since before the crash. And they're just not spending it. But it's ready.
What gets them spending it?
It is this magic feel, isn't it, of confidence. At the moment, I would say people are paralysed, don't quite know which way to go. And I know Will is investing, but it's self-feeding, isn't it? So we just need the politicians, the CBI, I'm afraid, I think they're being too gloomy. We know the Eurozone is lousy, but we've just got to sort of, you know, get up and start investing.
Are you confident? Are you creating jobs?
We are growing, we are pretty confident, but at the same time, 30% of our market's in Europe. Europe is heading for something that nobody can predict. So quite as Maggie said, in the last 3 or 4 years, we have been stuffing more money into the bank. You know, we're a little business. We're looking in the very long term, and the banks are all, you know, wanting to lend us tons of money at the moment. But if we had 500,000 of overdraft and our orders were falling off a cliff, suddenly all the banks would disappear. And we'd be stuffed.
So it's a safety-first approach,
yes,
on your part, looking to the longer term.
Absolutely.
Would you rather be spending that money creating jobs?
I think we are looking after our own destiny. We're old-school manufacturing. We would always like to have some level of security, but it's more than we'd normally operate with, because the environment at the moment is so unsure and so variable.
Tim Watts, are some industries creating more jobs than others? Are some types of employment easier to get than others?
Most certainly. Britain has some of the world's best manufacturers. What we do at the top of engineering is world class, and they are expanding, and they're doing really well. At the middle, yes, there is this lack of confidence at the moment. And I'm afraid when it comes to metal bashing and mass production of small items, we're not going to be able to compete with the Asian growing tiger economies.
So it's the usual story when it comes to...
restructure. But there's nothing changed in my 40 years career. Managing change. It's the same today as it was then.
Okay, thank you very much. How do you keep business at a record-breaking level?
Reinvesting all the time. You take your profits and you reinvest. That's the only way I think you're going to do it. You mentioned the CBI, and they are a big business club of big businesses. And I actually believe that they're not the ones to lead us out of this problem. There are 2 to 3 million SMEs in this country. And if each person just employed one more person, you'd solve the problem overnight. This country will be brought away from its problems by the SMEs, not by the big boys.
Look, put him out of his misery. Just hire someone, will you?
Yeah.
We are hiring people. But I think what Tim says is spot on. Little businesses actually also have a lot of potential to be more efficient. The big businesses are so perfect, but the little businesses have huge potential to be more effective, and that will give them the scope to employ another person.
Okay, quick thought on the cheese, the need to have a premium product. Does every business need to have one?
Certainly not the gold. You know, gold is tasteless. So there's absolutely no point in having those cheeses. I can't see what the point is.
Yeah.
Everything should be a premium. There you go.
Ah, this is the new mantra. Everything should be
everything
a premium.
Well, funny enough, our product is bizarre. In the UK, it's utilitarian. People use them, bash them to bits. You see them whizzing around London everywhere. If you go to Japan, they are revered, looked after, polished. So the same product could be interpreted different ways in different economies. For us, premium or not, we want to make a fantastic product that actually stands up for what it is.
Premium product for you?
Well, if it was the gold Stilton, I'm probably a little bit more excited by it. I don't think I would want it. It is certainly opulent. But if it comes from a small cheese manufacturer who creates a new product and a new design and a new application and people buy it, you're quite right, Maggie, it's completely tasteless. It's a metal. It doesn't do you any harm in that refined small amount. It's used in vodka. It's used quite substantially in catering these days. But that little manufacturer might have a new product. You've given it exposure on air here tonight. He may actually have big demand for it, and he might employ one more person.
So it might help him, even though we've mocked it mercilessly for the last...
I haven't mocked it.
Not you, us.
Well,
we are the mockers here.
I'm believing in entrepreneurs. That you think of something new, the spirit is indomitable, and it's that kind of marketing, that kind of thinking that will bring us out of our problems. Would I want it? No. I'd rather have a 60-year-old port with my Stilton.
How do you get that message of optimism across at a time when the Chancellor says we're in the most dangerous phase for the economy, when the Governor of the Bank of England says it's the worst since, I don't know, since the death of the dinosaurs or whatever timetable he chose on that one? When big figures like that say they are considering us to be in a crisis situation, everyone else is going to think they must know what they're talking about.
Yes, I think that we can talk ourselves into these positions, and we've done so in my career on more than one occasion in the past. The human spirit, I'm sorry to repeat myself, it really does get you out of positions. There is a problem out there, and we will solve it. I'm only repeating it again. We'll manage change, and we need to change. If you go backwards in the economy, you can see how much has changed. 40 years ago, I looked recently, there's only about 8 of the FTSE top 100 companies that were around when I started 40 years ago.
But that's changed. But my point is that you can't reverse unemployment just on a tide of goodwill and optimism.
Oh, you can, because if one person does something, that person contributes, and it goes round and round. It is actually the lack of circulation of money that the banks are hoarding the quantitative easing, which they were not supposed to do. I think Mr. Mervyn King is quite upset with them at the moment.
Sir Mervyn.
Sir Mervyn.
As he now is.
I do apologise. He's a man from the Midlands whom I know and admire greatly. He put the money into the system, and I think he's very upset that it didn't go round. And I believe that the next element of quantitative easing, which we may well need, must bypass the banks and go straight into circulation.
Bypass the banks going to where? To companies that need it? Going into consumers who can spend it? Who gets the money?
Well, I think that probably social housing would come top of my list at the moment. There's a huge need for it. Probably 500,000 homes are needed instantaneously. And they themselves spurn plumbers, carpenters, bricklayers, and they themselves go into the economy and the money will go round. So I would make sure that if there's going to be QE3, it gets into the economy, not build the balance sheets of the banks.
That would certainly be a bigger project than the 400 million or so that the government's likely to put up tomorrow to improve housing developments that have stalled because they've run out of cash. That's a story we'll be covering on this channel tomorrow, I suppose. Explain to me how you can have 2.5 million people unemployed and 500,000 unfilled vacancies.
They're just a mismatch. Skills, I think you'll find, are the prime problem. And I don't believe that there are 2.5 million unemployed. I believe there are 5.5 million unemployed. We seem to forget to count the long-term people who are on long-term structural sickness. There are probably maybe less than 1 million which have been there for a long time. It's jumped from 700,000 to 2.7 million in the last 12 years, and I doubt very much whether that is sickness-based. I believe it's probably a political ploy to have moved people 12 years ago off the unemployment counting register, and it's just a straight swap.
You can't say all those people are malingering.
I can say a fair proportion of them are, and I believe the government believes that, and they're going to bring in the new sick note from a panel and bypass the doctors. They're going to call in these extra 2 million people who've suddenly arrived there and certainly make them be interviewed. Some of them have been there for 4 or 5 years and have never been assessed.
OK, Tim Watts from Pertemps, thank you very much.